So say that you are triggered. Okay, what do you do? When I was reading the book, Come As You Are, Emily Nagoski actually shares higher triggered cycle must be completed. So first is you start to feel, oh my gosh, I'm at risk. The second is then you take action. Third is, oh, I feel safe. You've completed the entire triggered stress response cycle. What are some good ways to complete the cycle? Well, the first is physical activity, a good cry, really processing that emotion, sharing affection. We need each other. I love this. Self-care, massages, and breath work is really key as well. This has happened to me many times before where I get triggered and I'm in a triggered state and I literally don't know how to get myself out of that triggered state. I can hear a lot of Bible verses, I can hear scripture, I can hear a lot of truth, but because I'm in that triggered anxiety state, it's almost like there's a lot of noise going on and truth is not able to get through. What I have done in the past that's been so incredibly helpful, and I will do breath work to clear the noise, to create space, to then refill the space with truth by prayer, meditation, and reading scripture as well. And I will say the number one way to complete the stress cycle is to have intimacy, to feel safe with Jesus, to be reminded of how Jesus sees you, how he sees you with his righteousness, no matter what you have done or what has happened to you. When I was reading the book, Come As You Are, Emily Nagoski actually shares that, or when you go through an entire triggered state, what happens is a lot of shame and embarrassment naturally happens because you're so embarrassed that you're acting out of a triggered state. You're acting in a way that you usually wouldn't act. Then shares, though, that when you start to beat yourself up, you actually are turning yourself into a threat. You're telling yourself, I'm not safe with myself and I am the threat. I must protect myself against myself. These types of thoughts are incredibly debilitating and, believe it or not, incredibly rampant in the church as well, because when we get triggered in the church, or especially around other believers, we can have a lot of guilt, and this guilt starts to come as, oh my gosh, I can't believe I acted that way. I didn't act in the fruits of the Spirit. Self-control is key. I lost all of my self-control, or not in a way that other Christians would consider good or appropriate. Dr. Emily Nagoski really shares that even though we think as a culture that if we can beat ourselves up, self-criticism will make us better, actually in turn does just the opposite. It prolongs the triggered state completely, and self-compassion is key. The beauty is that when you're able to have compassion to yourself, able to step back and almost separate yourself. And she says it's key to take note of how you're acting, how you're behaving, instead of placing judgments on your actions and on your behavior. So just take note of it and then allow yourself to complete the cycle, allow the emotion to completely flow through you. So almost envision the emotion just flowing through your body and then just passing you by. And it also helps you make space to really see yourself as Jesus sees you, to really take in truth that you're ultimately Jesus' righteousness, and to really let those truths sink in within you. See, God is very aware of what has happened to you in your past and also of what is in your present. He is full of grace and compassion and love. If he treats you with grace, compassion, and love, shouldn't you treat yourself that same way? Everyone gets triggered. It's just what you do with it. That's what really matters. Now, in the book, The Body Keeps the Score, the author actually speaks of one of the hardest things for traumatized people is to actually confront their own shame about the way they behaved during that traumatic episode. This verse has gotten me through. Meditating on Psalm 18:16, he reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of the deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemies, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me, but the Lord was my support. He rescued me because he delighted in me. And so then I meditate on that verse, and when I'm in that triggered state, I go, God, I need you right now. I need you to rescue me, because this anxiety, this triggered state, I don't quite have all the awareness of why I'm acting in this way or where it's actually coming from. But Lord, I'm asking you to save me from this right now, and literally see God scooping down and rescuing me with his hand, because he delights in me. He sings over me. Now stay tuned for the next part, the next video, when we talk about getting lasting freedom from triggers for the long term.